guys, it's Steph here. I'm hanging out in my greenhouse. I love it in here. I've pretty much been living in here for about 5 months. It's got me through the winter time, but I just recently planted up all of my warm season heat loving annuals. I'm gonna show you what I planted. I would highly recommend planting these because they're ones that are come and cut. They bloom prolifically. They're really easy to grow. They're kind of a no-fail. A lot of these are no-fail annuals. I do have a few that I'm experimenting with, some climbers and some plants for my hanging baskets and my potted containers, but these ones are just really good ones to grow. I've noticed that in many different climates they do really well. They're kind of for the new gardener. I wanted to grow some flowers this year in my cutting garden that got a little bit bigger, that produced a ton of flowers just so I could have a really full lush look. Last year I tried planting Chinese aster. They were nice, but they were small little plants. They didn't love my climate, along with the dianthus, the carnations. They were just a little bit smaller. So this year my goal was to put flowers in my cutting garden that are easy, first of all. They don't require a lot of maintenance, not a lot of fertilizer, and they get big, like nearly 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, and they produce a lot of flowers. So this year I have a lot of annuals. This fall I'm gonna transition and put a lot of perennials in because my life's getting a little bit busier and I just need a little bit more low maintenance. I find that the perennials, like the heliopsis is one I'm gonna put in there, the fall blooming anemone in fall. They are good for cutting. They come out a little bit later, and the heliopsis just blooms for a really long time and they're all great for cutting. But this year I'll just show you what annuals I have planted. I'll describe them a little bit. They're really easy to grow. Like I said, if you're new to gardening, these are definitely ones you should put in your yard. They're drought tolerant, they're heat tolerant. They don't require as much fertilizer, and they do well in my clay soil because in my cutting garden, I hadn't really amended it last year and they did well. In addition to those easy annuals I'm growing, I am gonna be planting 3 vines. Don't know what to expect with these. It's kind of my first time. So let's start talking about those easy annuals and then I'll get to the vines at the end. Okay, so the first ones I'm going to be planting are zinnias. I'm planting 4 different varieties this year. The giant wine, which is a new one. It's a kind of a dark maroon wine colored zinnia. And then I've got my zinnia binary giant whites that I grew last year and my binary giant salmon. I love these zinnias just because they were so big. So with most of these warm hardy annuals that I'm growing, I'm just going to be growing them about 4 weeks before my last frost date, which is usually around May 15th. Sometimes we get a late frost in June. And I'm just going to plant them, the zinnias, about 1/4 inch deep. So with zinnias, there really is no need to start them early. They are just such fast growers. They really take off and they don't like a lot of transplant shock, and they are tender annuals. So you really don't want to plant them if there's going to be any threat of frost. You want those temperatures to be above 50 degrees, and they're fairly big seeds. So I'm really excited to grow these again. These are just one of those that come and cut again. They just are so prolific. I planted some in June and they took off just as fast as the ones that I did in the greenhouse. The next one that I'm going to plant is similar to zinnias. They like the heat. They're a little bit more drought tolerant. You can actually sprinkle the zinnia and cosmos outside if you'd like. They do take off really fast. And with the cosmos, they are just so pretty. The way that they blow in the wind is gorgeous. They have a nice big seed, so plant them about 1/4 inch deep. The bigger the seed, a little bit deeper in your planting. But these cosmos, they produce so many flowers. So deadheading, like I said in my previous video, they require a lot of deadheading. So I'm just going to shear them in half once they go through a lot of blooms. But they are really great for cutting. So the next one is the raspberry rose straw flower. Last year I planted a dark purple one. It's in this amaranth vase. These get about 38 to 40 inches tall. It's almost papery when they come out. Seed is quite small. Sprinkle it on the surface of the soil and a lot of light to germinate. The next one I'm going to be planting is my amaranth. Last year I planted the red spike amaranth. This was an incredible plant. The one that produced the biggest blooms, it got the biggest. This year I'm doing the hot biscuits variety. It's a golden color, so it's a little bit different than the red spike. The seeds for this amaranth is tiny, just kind of like the straw flower. So I'm just going to sprinkle them on the surface, make sure I don't cover them with maybe some fine vermiculite. That's it, just so that it has that light to germinate. I made a fun wreath around Halloween, which was perfect. It kind of fit the vibe, and it's just a really cool plant to grow. So I'm excited to try this different color this year. The next one I'm going to be planting is the purple gomphrena. This is a really cool one. It's also known as globe amaranth, so it's going to be another drought tolerant, heat tolerant one, like I've been saying. This isn't as tall. It only gets about, I think, 24 inches tall and about 18 inches wide. But once you plant this, it just takes off. The seed is a little bit bigger on this one, so I'm going to plant them about 1/8 in depth, cover them lightly. Gomphrena is cool. It provides a little texture. It's kind of like your summer miniature allium. Got cute little round balls, and it just does really well everywhere that I've seen people grow it. It just takes off, but it can kind of take over, so you got to be careful with that. It's a really good filler plant in your flower beds. I'm going to put it in the front of my cutting garden. I'm going to replace my daffodils, well, not my daffodils, but my Iceland poppies with it. I'll cut down my daffodils, and then this can be my succession planting of flowers. Really excited to try this one. It's my first year to try it. I've been wanting to grow it for a few years now, and so I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to plant about 30 plants in my cutting garden, so it's going to be a nice mass planting. I know I've got a lot here, but the next one I'm going to be planting are some of my hollyhocks. Loved this one. I like to treat my hollyhocks as an annual because I get blooms the first year, and then I can kind of keep them in control. They can be a little bit more invasive, but I'm going to be planting them along my fence, or along my shop, not my fence. They're beautiful along a fence. I'm going to do a bunch of them. They'll get nice and tall in the full sun. Last year I put them in a shadier area, and they got a little bit more bushy, but bloomed summer all the way until I think late October. They bloomed after a few frosts, and the bees go crazy over the hollyhocks. The seeds are a little bit bigger here, so I'm going to be planting them about 1/4 inch deep, and then I'll cover them with some vermiculite. But I also wanted to add with these hollyhocks that they are not good for cutting, so don't do that. I tried cutting them and they just flopped immediately, and they just don't divide very well. So once you have them in your spot, just keep them there. Don't try to move them or transplant them. You're not going to have a lot of luck with that. One of the easiest seeds to grow. I'm moving on to my vines now. My last 3 ones. I'm going to be growing a hyacinth bean vine for the first year. This has a really cool purple leaf. The seeds are quite large on this hyacinth bean, so I'm going to plant it in 4-inch cell trays because they don't like to be transplanted. So I'm going to do both. I'm going to try some seeds, direct sow them out in my garden 2 weeks after my last frost date, and then I will grow these right now and plant them in the ground and see what happens. But since I am putting them in a bigger container, I'm going to try to control that a little bit. But look at the size of those seeds. This one's going to be cool. They have purplish, greenish leaves, so it'll provide some nice contrast of color to your green colored leaves. And then I'm going to plant this about 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep. I think I have about a 1/2 inch depth right here, and then cover them up. But I'm not sure what to expect with this. I know with vines, just give them a lot of fertilizer at the beginning, keep them moist, and they'll take off a little bit more quickly. All of these seeds I'm growing about 4 weeks before my last frost date. They're really heat loving. They don't want to deal with cold temperatures. Anyway, so we'll see what happens. Excited to show you an update on this, but these will get really big really quickly if they take off. They can get up to 10 to 20 feet tall. So that is a huge vine. So I'm going to put them around my arbors in my cutting garden while I'm trying to wait for my clematis to fill in. My second to last vine here is my cup and saucer. So last year I tried growing these and I got one bloom right as the frost hit, so it fizzled, and that was it. The mistake I made with these. Okay, so before I talk about that, let's look at this seed. So this is the number one mistake you want to avoid is don't plant it flat. Plant it on its side at about 1/4 inch to 1/2 depth right there. If you don't, I did not have a great germination rate. So once I put them on the sides like that, they were all sprouting just really, really nicely. Make sure you don't over water them too with them. A lot of mine rotted if they got too wet. So just keep your soil moist, err on the side of caution, let it dry out just slightly instead of oversaturating it, and they do really well. Okay, anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna make sure that I water it and give it a lot of fertilizer at the beginning, put it in nice compost, and then just make sure I fertilize it about once a month from there on out. I'm hoping I can do a lot better this year by giving it more love. Last but not least, I'm planting this purple bell vine. The seeds are pretty small, so I'm only going to plant them about 1/8 inch depth. My first time growing it, so I don't have a lot to say about it. Just going to have them under grow lights for 12 hours, about 70 to 75 degrees for all of these seeds, 4 weeks before my last frost date. And then I'm just covering them with plastic domes until they start to germinate, just to keep them more moist. Okay, that is what I have planned for this 2023 gardening season in the cutting garden. I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. So in fall, I direct sowed a lot of my cold hardy seeds, and I'm really excited because my larkspur is starting to germinate. I've seen some of my snaps dragon seeds germinate, some of my Iceland poppies. I'm just a little bit concerned this spring since it's been cold for so long. Everything is so set back that my biggest concern is the heat's gonna set in before I can really enjoy these cold hardy annuals. I would have never predicted this, so I'm hoping the temperatures stay cool enough for a month and a half, and then I'll enjoy those cold hardy blooms. Once they start to fizzle, I'll go ahead and replace them with all of these warm season annuals, and then I can really enjoy blooms from summer until fall. So I do have a lot of dahlia tubers I haven't talked about today that I'm going to be planting in the cutting garden also. Anyways, here's a little overview. I'm busy, there's a lot going on. Anyways, I can't wait to update you on all of this. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button, and I will see you in my next videos. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, that is what I have planned for this 2023 gardening season in the cutting garden. I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. So in fall, I direct sowed a lot of my cold hardy seeds, and I'm really excited because my larkspur is starting to germinate. I've seen some of my snaps dragon seeds germinate, some of my Iceland poppies. I'm just a little bit concerned this spring since it's been cold for so long. Everything is so set back that my biggest concern is the heat's gonna set in before I can really enjoy these cold hardy annuals. I would have never predicted this, so I'm hoping the temperatures stay cool enough for a month and a half, and then I'll enjoy those cold hardy blooms. Once they start to fizzle, I'll go ahead and replace them with all of these warm season annuals, and then I can really enjoy blooms from summer until fall. So I do have a lot of dahlia tubers I haven't talked about today that I'm going to be planting in the cutting garden also. Anyways, here's a little overview. I'm busy, there's a lot going on. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun in your own gardens. Anyways, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button, and I will see you in my next videos. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.